Good evening, everybody. I feel like last week we went spooky, and I was tempted to go spooky again this week, but then I was just like, I need a romance, and the romance I just could not get enough of growing up. It's fucking Pearl Harbor, so I was really excited to do this.
You couldn't get enough of this movie
Oh
growing
my
up.
god,
Are
I
you
was
fucking
obsessed.
kidding me?
I was obsessed with this movie. Like
I-
this movie, Lord of the Rings, Pirates of the Caribbean were like my obsession movies as a teenager.
I listen, I always forget that I hate Michael Bay movies until I'm in the middle of watching a Michael Bay movie and like the explosion starts and I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ. I dislike this movie so much. I don't hate it quite as much as the Western, but I don't ask me details. You're gonna have to tell me everything that happened in this movie because details of this movie I don't know. I don't know who anyone is. I don't. All I know is one of them is fucking what's his face? Fucking Boston guy.
Ben
That
Affleck.
guy. Yeah. I knew it started with a B, but I knew the name that I had in my head was not the right B. So I couldn't remember. I know it's got him in it. And I know he's the main guy. I can't focus on these kinds of movies. This gratuitous violence, war porn type of movie. I cannot focus. I don't care about any of them. They all could have died and I would not have gave a shit. Every time somebody that they knew die, I was just like, all right, seems fair.
Oh, no. Okay. So we come in on, I will say, this movie, Michael Bay loves his fucking whimsy shots. Like,
Yeah, the panned out shots and stuff were
oh yeah.
nice.
And just everything in this, from the moment the film starts and you're just two little boys on a farm pretending to fly, the music is so like, and the shots, and you're just like, I love these little boys. Like,
Yeah.
so they're getting in their daddy's plane, like he comes back and they get in and he's like, I'm gonna teach you how to
Whoopsie.
fly. And then they start the plane and they're like, fuck, 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 fuck. And they get a little bit off the ground and they land okay and they're fine. And they're like, and then the one kid's dad comes over and just starts beating them.
Yeah,
And
you got in a fucking airplane and you pushed all the buttons. You turned it on.
well, no, this wasn't even the dad. This wasn't that dad. That
I know
dad,
it was.
it was the other kid's dad. He
Yeah.
wasn't at the airplane. He just mad his kid's not at home. So he starts beating. So the other kid, and their names were Danny and, so Danny I always knew, but the other guy's name I could never keep in my head because it's so fucking stupid. It's
Yeah, it's
fucking
like
Rafe. And I'm
yeah.
like, what kind of fucking name is that? Nobody
Listen,
was fucking named Rafe. Nobody's named that now. What the hell? Who sat down
nah.
on that script and was like, we need like some classic American names? One guy's like, well, fucking Danny. Oh, great one. Danny. Yes.
And then Rafe. What?
Someone else. Oh, William. No, that's not it. That's not it. I know. Rafe. Oh, fuck yes. Rafe.
Yeah, they're from Tennessee, I think, right? I think that's when it opens. Tennessee, like 1924 or something. It says.
Yeah, it was
Pretty
definitely Southern State.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Tennessee. That ain't a name from Tennessee. You could have named him Earl. Like if you wanted a country name,
Vernon.
good old country.
We
Yeah,
all
Earl
know what our
Vernon.
granddaddy's names were, and not one of you fuckers had a granddad named Rafe. I don't
No,
believe it.
they got the name wrong and they didn't get the accents right if they were supposed to be from Tennessee. That's my
Oh yeah. Well, I think
honestly. I
Josh Hartnett plays Danny, and I think he had a pretty cute little country accent. Ben
he
Affleck
sounded
was not good.
he sounded okay, but that's not the Tennessee accent. That's not Tennessee. Every part of the South has its own distinct little accents, and that ain't Tennessee.
No, it was
Whatever
just
that
in
was.
general country.
Generic. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like how when we do Scottish movies, Scottish people are like, that's not Scottish, but okay,
Yeah.
but we all have that general idea of what they sound like.
Yeah.
So yeah, then Rafe, baby Rafe, hits the dad with a like plank or something, and
Yeah.
he calls him a fucking German. Like, get off him, you damn dirty German. And the guy's like, I fought the Germans. I was in the ditches. And just stumbles off. And I was just like, that would not have happened that way. And for like a
No, that boy
really
would have got his
angry
ass beat.
PTSD. Yeah, that guy would have fucking killed that kid.
He would have had,
Like,
yeah, he would have told him go get a switch, is what he would have said. Go
oh,
pick your own fucking switch. Like,
you
I'm
hit
gonna
him
tear
with
your
a
ass
board,
up.
and then you also call him a name, you're just gonna die. He's just gonna beat the shit
And he's
out of you.
already mad.
Yeah.
Like, nah.
He's
This is
not gonna.
also, this is where we first get the idea that Danny can't read. Because he writes when they're making their
Rafe
little,
can't read.
it was Ben
Danny-
Affleck's character.
Yeah, that's Rafe. Right, whatever. Ben Affleck is Reef. Danny is Josh Hartnett.
Oh, I got him mixed up in my head. Yeah, he can't read because he
Yeah.
writes
Rafe-
rudder wrong.
Yeah, he can't read and write. Danny's the kid with the abusive dad, and Rafe
Yeah,
is
yeah.
the one. So it sets up the whole Rafe's the teacher, Rafe is the savior, Danny is Wimpy, and just following him around. So then we jump to it's like old timey, you know, America, homeboys again, and it's 1941. The war has begun, but not for Americans. Remember, hasn't started for us. Europe's at war. We're not. So, they're in the military now, and they were like in the sky flying, and they play chicken, and you get that they're like the show offs of the squad, and they get called into their higher
Commanding
ups
officer.
Yeah, and I don't remember
like,
what
what the
bullshit
fuck?
story he told, but it was a pretty funny bullshit story. Like he was like, that is complete bullshit. Or he was like, what were y'all thinking? And they were like, well, we were trying to be like you, sir. And
Yeah.
like, you tell some fancy bullshit, but I like it.
Yeah.
So then it jumps to the train, and the women are talking, and they're the nurses, and they can't wait to get on base to meet the men folks and stuff. And then when they're telling Evelyn is the main girl, and they're asking her to tell her story, and she's like, well, it started, and then you get the flashback moment of Danny and Reef are in the medical unit getting their intake done, pretty much. And Rafe, it's the eye test, and Rafe can't read. He doesn't know letters, so he's practiced just the bottom line. And Danny's also right behind him, trying to whisper in his ear. And he walks up to Evelyn, and she's like, "Okay." And before she can say anything, he's like, "Thanks, okay, bye." And she's like, hold it there, sailor. Read the top line." And he's like, and he kind of tripped over it, and then she's just kind of like, dude, you can't see for shit. And he's like, no, I can see. I just can't read. I read things backwards and mix up my letters. So
He's
I'm like,
dyslexic. He's just
so Rafe's dyslexic. But that wouldn't have been a thing. Like, I'll give it to him. In the 40s, nobody would have said that. It would have been, I just can't read. So he gives this another heartwarming speech. I mean, I guess the whole German thing was like a little one. I was in the trenches. This is it's been my dream to fly since I was a kid. I just want to save my country. And she passes him. She leaves him and she passes him. And then he decides he wants to hit on her. So he jumps in line in front of another guy and takes his file, and she's now giving out the shots, like the polio vaccines and shit. And he starts talking, and she's not really paying attention to who he is and stuff. And he's like, I just want to say thank you. She's like, oh yeah, thanks. And she shoots him in the ass real hard. And then he gets fresh again. So she does it a second time. So then he stands up and he's like, no, really. And he starts like slurring his words. And she's like, how many times have you had this shot? He had it like fucking 3 times or 4 times.
He
He passes the fuck out.
It smacks his head against the little tray. And I will say, any shot that requires enough muscle to activate where it has to be getting in your ass, those are the worst fucking shots you can take. And it shows like the other guys getting them and being like, ah, and like that's not acting. I had to have those shots when I was a kid because I got the flu so bad that they would have to take me to the hospital. My mom would literally be like, just give her the shot and she'll be fine. Oh, she gave me one at home one time. They are the worst. And these nurses were just walking around and just no warning, no warm up, just
and they're not even like the nice needles we have these days. They're like the old 50s ones
with a little handle for your fingers.
Yeah. And she it was so funny because she hits him and he goes, oh, and she's like, are you okay? And she knows she hit him hard. He's like, I think you hit the bone there.
It does feel like that, dog. Even with new needles, God, it is so bad.
I was on the Depo shot for my first birth control, so I was on it for years. Yeah, they made me get in my ass every time, and it was always like, oh my God. Like
anything that needs that much muscle, I don't want it unless I'm like dying. If I'm sick enough to go to the hospital, then yeah, load up my ass with whatever you need to do. But if I am not sick enough for it, you got to find another way. I'm not doing those.
Look, man, why is the arm not good enough?
It's the muscle. There's not enough muscle. Like, don't give it to me. I don't want it. I'm so sorry.
I also don't like the ass because not only does it just hurt more, it's right by your sciatic nerve. So like,
oh yeah,
automatically that shit's irritated. Like,
and I already have problems with
like
mine.
something's in my zone. You're not walking today.
Like, no.
I hate that. So anyway, so then it cuts like to later that night, and he's walking up, like she's coming down with the ladies. They're coming out of the hospital, and he's walking up, and he has his nose like fully taped, like but he has champagne and flowers, and he's like, I thought we could have that drink. And she's like, oh my God. And he's like,
yeah, like, are you okay? He said it's a precaution. It's just a precaution. I do remember him saying that because I was like, this dude, Jesus Christ.
Right. So then they sit down. She's like, okay. So they sit down on the steps, and they're just talking. And he's like trying to open the bottle, and it hits him right in the nose. And he's like, it's fine. That cork just got away from me right there. And then he's like starts crying, like she's talking more, and he's like,
tears up.
It hurts so damn bad.
He has to like lay in her lap because he's like, oh.
And she's like, it's okay. Okay. So then she's back on the train because that was all, back, and she's like, it's been the best 4 weeks of my life. So now that was 4 weeks ago. So they've been dating a month, which back then it's a long time.
Especially long distance.
Right, and long distance. So they're seeing each other tonight, and then it shows the boys getting ready back at the base, and like they're all just talking shit about like how they're gonna get the girl and stuff. And the one guy pulls out this chemical. He's like, rub a little dab under your eye, and you're just like, honey, I'm going to war, and I don't know if I'm gonna see you again. And he's like, you just let it well up, you'll get her every time. And the one friend is like, did that really work?
No.
So then it just jumps to oh wait, while that chit chat is happening, Rafe gets called up to his commanding officer's like tower thing, and he's like, the letters come in, you've been accepted to go fly with England, that you could volunteer and go fly with them. And he's like, are you sure you want to do this? And He's like, yeah. So he takes his orders and heads downstairs, and then it jumps to they're now at the bar dancing.
Well,
And
didn't he meet her on the train station? Didn't they have like a moment? He like picked
oh
her up.
yeah,
Yeah.
he did. They meet at the train station first. Gets his orders, meets her at the train station. They all meet. Because the one chick walks up, she's like, a Betty. She's the cute young one. And she's like, do you have any friends? And he's like, he's like, take your pick. And they're all standing out there. Then they're all at the bar together. And one of the people on the army side, one of the men, his name is Red, and he has a stutter. And he starts talking to young Betty. So that's one coupling. And then they had like an older blonde lady, and she ends up with this one guy who's a little bit of a loudmouth. And he gets slid the stuff for under his eyes, and he puts like a bunch under there. And he takes it, he's like, we gotta talk right now. And he takes her to do that thing, but it's like burning too much. So he's like,
And he's like rubbing. I remember him like overhand, but he.
See you again.
The thing that got me was he wasn't even doing that. He was like overhand rubbing his eyes.
He was just so like, he's suffering, and she's just like, why are you crying? And
Yeah.
I just don't know who to see her again. And she's like,
just met me.
Tonight's gonna be the best, and like jumps his bone, so he's in. The other guy who gave him the stuff is talking to the actress is one of the Jennifers, the one from 30 going on 13, something like that.
I think it's Gardner. Yeah.
Jennifer Garner. And I will say, in this movie, she's such a different character. You almost
I didn't recognize her.
Right?
Didn't.
Like, it's like she really just changed her whole persona. Like, she did really good, even though she is a smaller part, you know? But she's the more serious girl of the group. And the other guy's trying to hit on her, and she's like, ew, just go away. And let's see. Danny doesn't talk to anyone, and Evelyn notices that. And Danny, once again, is being painted as the quieter, small one. He's like, he just doesn't really talk to them. And then he whisks Evelyn away. Rafe and Evelyn get out of there to go have a romantic night together. And they end up stealing a police boat and riding out to. Did you notice the boat name?
No, I wasn't paying attention. What the fuck is the boat name?
It was the Queen Mary, the twin sister of the Titanic, and it is now currently one of the most haunted locations in America.
Oh, I see. All right.
So
I don't remember the name. I remember them falling.
Yeah. So they get up on the scaffolding, and he's puts it up, and they're drinking wine and talking about, oh, to be on a big ship like this, and you know, all that good stuff. And then they end up kissing, like he leans her over and they're kissing, and then he hits the thing, and then they fall into the water, and they're laughing.
Only like halfway. They were like this. That's even worse. Just I wish it fell all the way. Being like this, it's like, oh no.
It's really just their shoes got wet, and that's about it. But then they you know, they're giggling, it's all fun, and they cut back, going back in. And the people are all up in the hotel room. And this is when he decides to tell Evelyn that he's actually leaving, like going to the war. And she's like, what the fuck? And he's like, I gotta do it, it's my duty. And so everyone's upstairs partying, but then he just leaves her. So I don't know where he went.
I noticed it too. I was like, what is happening?
Is that everyone's hotel or just the girls' hotel? And why are you doing leaving? So anyways, so he ends up leaving.
Which is a bitch ass move. You tell her, hey, by the way, I'm literally going to war.
Oh,
like immediately.
Her, don't come say goodbye to me. He like purposely says, don't come say goodbye to me.
Another bitch move. What
leave it where it's at. And then the very next scene, he's with Danny. They're in the train station, and Danny's like, are you sure you don't want her here? And he goes, it's a test. If she does show up, I know she really loves me.
I hate this dude. This dude is so fucking annoying.
Like, seriously? So, because that would I'd fail every test. You
We're too
told me
autistic.
not to, so I'm not
Yeah,
going to. Like,
we're too autistic. And not only did you tell me not to, but you literally showed up today. We haven't seen each other in months. We've been long distance. We show up, we go out to party. You know that you have these orders. You choose to tell me at the end of the night, and then you dip out and leave me while telling me, don't come say goodbye to me tomorrow, even though I might fucking die. I would be like, this dude is so confusing. I can't. The parameters of the relationship have to be defined for me. I can't.
yeah.
I'm too autistic. This is too much. I would fail the test, and I would be a nervous wreck, but I wouldn't even write you because I'd be like, this is like what
Yeah,
are the parameters of this relationship?
I would lose interest so quickly if it was just kind of like, okay, bye. Like, so anyways,
Don't die, I guess.
yeah. So he's saying goodbye to his friend. He gets on the train, and Evelyn's running in. And she gets to the thing, and she's like, oh, I'm looking around, and oh, he's up in the window. He sees her, but she doesn't see him. And he's trying to knock on the window.
Like
He's like yelling on the train. Ah!
And there's people right next to him. They show people
Nobody's
literally in a seat over.
like,
Yeah.
nobody's reacting. But Evelyn doesn't hear him. She just kind of walks away, and he sits down, and he's like, he looks over at the guy, and the guy's looking at him like, what the fuck, dude? And he's just like, she loves me. And I was like, it was kind of cute. It was kind of cute. So then you're next year, he's in England, and you're seeing what a shit show is happening there.
He's racing around in his little plane, just boop 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 boop.
Well, no, first it shows how guys like, I'll show you your bunk and we'll get you to a plane.
Oh
like,
yeah, you're right.
Get me to a fucking plane. He's like, I don't know why you Americans so fucking eager to die. And he leads him over to this plane that's literally still has blood on it. Like, I would be like, oh, I take that back. Lead me to my room first while you guys clean this. So then it goes into him running around, taking them down, and making friends while and it jumps between. It's like a montagey moment, pretty much, of jumping between her writing, oh, it's so great here, blah blah blah, and then him being like, I miss you so much, days are so cold.
And she's at Pearl Harbor at this point, right?
Yeah,
they're like, she's like on the beach. She's riding him on the beach, and he's like riding her in the fucking damp trenches. And I was like, Jesus.
Because all around here, she is like, the other girls are so happy with their house, and she's just wandering off. And they also show like Danny's a part of the montage too, where he's meeting his new group of people.
This is where
you meet one of the funnier ones. His name's Goose. But
yeah, that's the dude that's the dude with the surfboard, right?
Yeah,
I like that guy.
Which I totally meant to look up, because okay, so in the scene he's building a fin, and he's like, I'm gonna put it on my board, and it's gonna help with it. And I was like, did that dude really invent that? Like, did they sneak in a little historical figure there? But I forgot to look that. And I don't. Honestly, after what I have read. Like, so they meet them. So it's like pilot, buddy. Then we get Rafe. He's flying. No. Handed bloody plane. Oh, it shows Teddy Roosevelt. Because I was like, oh, it's good old Teddy. It shows Roosevelt talking about the embargoes on Japan. I think he's talking to his war room or something. And no, he's talking about moving the fleet to the east. And they're like, why would we do that? And he's like, just get it done. Then it shows the Japanese talking about the embargoes, and that the Americans have taken the oil, and pretty much this is bullshit. We're fucking their shit up. Pretty much.
Okay, so he didn't invent the surfboard fin. A dude by the name of Thomas Edward Blake did. He was an athlete and a writer. He was like a competitive swimmer and then an avid surfboarder. He invented it in 1935.
No,
Yeah, so
so just bullshit.
no, and that was in Waikiki. So I mean, kind of, but no, that was not. He did not do that from the
Yeah.
movie. That was not a historical figure. He did not have any military history.
Yeah.
So the Japan is like, we're not
Yeah.
having this.
No, now I've lost the notes. I gotta find where I was at. Okay, so the Japan's planning an attack. They talk about how the Pacific Fleet has over 100 ships. More montagey moments of like their paradise, his hell, writing the letters. And then it shows Admiral Kimmel. He's like the big guy in Hawaii, pretty much. You only see him a couple times, but he's getting the order that they're to split the fleet and send it over east. And he's like, what the fuck? He's not happy with those orders.
Is this when we meet Cuba Gooding Jr. too?
I don't think we've met. Maybe. I don't think so.
Or is that later?
No. Yeah, it's coming up.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't met him yet. Because when you see Admiral Kimmel the first time, is the first time we actually get to go on the ships.
Yeah.
And he's talking about how it's silly. Well, the Admiral's like, I don't like this. And the other people are like, who cares? We don't need them here. This is like the safest place on earth, like, and this is where they're going over like how the shallow water helps and blah, blah, blah. And that the Japanese couldn't reach them anyways, pretty much. And then at that moment, when he makes that comment, it jumps over to the Japanese hooking wood around their propellers and being like, this will help our missiles go through those shallow waters that are apparently impenetrable. So then you're kind of seeing like, you're getting cocky about this situation, but they got you in that situation. Then it goes to Rafe is like flying and taking down a crew, but they get him. They end up breaking him apart and then getting behind him, and then his plane goes down, and you're like, oh my God. Rafe is dead.
Yeah. Having not remembered much from this actual movie, I was very confused when that happened because I was like, your face is on the picture. You're not. Right. No, you can't. No. He's not, right? He's not. I was so lost.
He dies. So then it jumps. So at this point, you are like left in that moment being like, did he die? Because it's just his plane going down. So you're could be. Then you're on the ship, and this is where you meet Cuba, and he's in a boxing match, and Danny and Goose are betting on the match, and Danny bets on Cuba's character. His name is I'm gonna say it wrong. Where is it?
Petty officer something.
Yeah, it starts with a D. Dory. His name's Dory Miller. And he's going against a really big, strong, like, dude. Oops. So, you're like, there's no way this little guy is gonna beat this guy. He gets his second win. You get a little taste of his relationship with the other cooks and stuff, and like, clearly all the black men are like cooks and shit and having to do this for like extra money. And so he ends up beating him, and he's like, fuck yeah, we want like $180. And then it jumps over to the Japanese planning. They're talking about sending out a bunch of messages, like they just pretty much the plan is to flood the information lines so that the Americans
with nonsense
can't fucking figure out what's happening. Like they'll see something's happening, but it'll be too much for them to figure out. Then it jumps to the girl. She's just like fluttering around. I want to say they like had just been introduced to their hospital, like where they'll be working. They walk in and they're like, "Oh, this is very nice." And then she's walking out, and Danny gets out of a car, and you're like, "Oh, Rafe is dead." And Danny's telling her he's passed, and they're
He
crying.
doesn't even say anything. He just walks
Yeah, he
over
just
and
walks up
she
to her, and
knows.
she knows
Yeah.
what's up. And
Yeah.
so then they just end up crying in each other's arms. And then it starts showing, you get kind of like this mini montage of just her sadness. Everyone's happy around her. She's super sad. And I think you get a little bit Danny in there too. And they end up,
He like drinks at the bar. He like makes a toast or something at this point, right?
yeah,
Because that
they're
comes
in
back
this
later.
like bar scene. He does something for her where they
I don't
end up
remember.
they end up having like a little hangout. It maybe he was drunk after the bar, and like she came up on him or something like that. But they end up chit chatting and bonding a little bit, and then he ends up running off. And then the next day he's in the garage, and they're just kind of shooting shit, fixing a plane, and she's coming across one and like one of the hottest dresses I've ever seen in my life. Like this woman's gorgeous, and it was a beautiful red dress. And they're all like, "Oh shit!" And he's like, "She fuck, why is she here?" And they're like, "Get it, dude. He'd want you to protect his girl." And it starts like this little mini debate of being like, "I wouldn't want my best friend fucking my girl if I was dead or not," and them being like, "No,
Agreed.
it's
The
the
fuck?
responsible thing to do to take care of him because he loved her and stuff." So they end up running off, and she's like, "I just wanted to come thank you and stuff." And he's like, "Ever seen the sunset?" And she's like, "Yeah, I've seen the fucking sunset." And he's like,
Duh.
"In the sky?" And so then he takes her flying, and it's very romantic. And
But it's not very safe. Yeah, she's sitting in his fucking lap. And he says, "Keep your
and
head
they're
down."
doing barrel rolls.
She tells him
And
not to do a barrel roll, and he immediately does a
giggling.
barrel roll. I would throw up all over that man. I would have thrown up in his lap immediately. I can't believe he had her sitting in.
Probably, and she didn't have a seatbelt on, so honestly, she should have bonked her head pretty hard.
Yeah, like what was it? How he
Flopped up and
wasn't
flopped down.
the physics in Michael Bay movies don't make any fucking sense.
So they end up landing, and some guy calls out. He's like, "That plane should have been back an hour ago." And I'm like, I know it's the 1940s. I still feel like the U.S. military would not be that loosey goosey to be like, "Hey, a plane ain't back. Give it an hour, boys. We'll go look for it later." You know, like.
Well, I don't know what they could have done. Like that, yeah, they could have like radioed.
Yeah,
And like
I feel
they
like there'd be a
probably
lot
did.
more people on that base being like, "What the fuck, bro?" You know,
Somebody
like,
would have met him out there at least.
yeah,
Like somebody
like,
would have met him out there. And then he said something when they took off. He was like, he said, I could get in trouble for this,
oh,
or I
he
could
said I
get,
could end up in the brig, but
yeah. And he
which is
should
very
have.
true. But I'm more. I feel like that's a continuity hole when you're just like,
Michael
really,
Bay. Michael Bay, man.
nobody on base
What
gives
did,
a shit that you're an hour late with a plane.
and there's somebody there, like
Yeah.
in there
So
with
she
you.
has to go hide, and she goes and hides in the parachute bay. Apparently, the military just hangs up their parachutes.
I
Like,
mean, I don't know a better way to store them, to be honest.
in bags so you can pick them up. Like, what are they doing in that position? Just hanging around like a bunch of curtains. What
Those
good
are
is that
extras.
doing?
Those are extras. It's Michael Bay, man. Nothing makes fucking sense.
It's the laundry. It was laundry day, and they had to wash all the
The
parachutes. So they were hanging up, didn't dry.
dry.
Yeah. So she's like spinning in it, and he comes in with her, and then of course you get a very lovely sex scene. Which now that I'm younger, now that I'm younger, guys, now I'm older, watching these sex scenes, I am really just like, that's not sex. You're literally not even moving. Like, it kind of is not as sexy as it used to be. You know?
You know what it makes me think of? The first thing I think is ain't nobody coming at all. Nobody's finishing. And the second thing I think of is, do you know that thing that Mormons do called soaking?
Yes.
That's what it makes me think of. Like you're just soaking. Like you're not even
Honestly, there's literally no movement. They're literally scenes of
none.
like, hold it, hold it. Like,
Man.
even in their scenes, not even like a
I would
nothing.
have
They're not
I
even
would have
moving
done a
their
sex
heads.
scene back then.
So
I would have
yeah,
done a sex scene back then. I'd be like, yeah, I'll just be naked.
yeah.
That's
They're
fine. I
just
wouldn't
like
do
here,
one now, but I would do one.
like,
Yeah. Hold that pose. Like,
right. That's pretty much all they did. They just posed it. And so, I mean, two beautiful people, I'll give them that, but not a very sexy sex scene. So then it jumps to, I want to say like they're officially, we get, it's like another, this movie has a lot of montage moments of
for
this, like,
a 3-hour long movie, yeah, there's a lot of
yeah.
fucking
So there
like
are a lot of moments where you're just like, and we're fast forwarding through time pretty much.
yeah.
Pigs are flying, so romantic. Um, oh, she kind of regrets it. Um, and she is kind of like, I was in my
Yeah, hello.
sad. I didn't really want you.
Hello. The whole
Sorry.
situation is fucking weird. We're not in biblical
Yeah.
times where it's your obligation to take your husband, your dead brother's wife. Like this is not no, this is weird. This is awkward. You both suck.
Yeah. So, and then you also find out through this montage that she's probably pregnant, which is like, so then she's kind of like, well, guess we're together now. Just, fuck, I'm pregnant. But as she's finding that out, she walks outside, and who's fucking standing there? Fucking Rafe. He's
Hello.
not dead. And so now, of course, I've seen this movie 50 bajillion times, but I remember being that fucking 13-year-old being like, oh my God,
Dog,
he's
listen.
not dead.
I
And
told you
this was the twist of a lifetime for me. Okay. Like,
I told you I didn't remember shit from this. As I was watching this, I was on my phone and I was listening, and then I look up, and the moment happens where you see him, the laugh I let out. I started cackling so hard because it's like, oh shit, look what you did. You done fucked up enormously. Bitch, you have made so many mistakes. Oh my
yeah.
god.
But look, so when I was growing up, when I first saw that scene, I was always on her side with it, her and Danny's side. I was always like, Rafe, get your shit together. Bitch, you died. You died. You don't get to come back and expect everything to be
Okay.
the same, you know? Like,
Yeah. I see it from both sides. Like I
yeah,
see, yeah, him coming back and expecting her to have waited. But the thing about it is we don't get a solid timeline, do we? Of how
yes.
long he was
It's
gone?
been 6 months since he died, which I
Okay.
will grant him that you could have given me a year, bitch, but
I
you have been
just
dead for 6 months. Like,
I just yeah, you've been like a POW whatever for 6 months. But I think it's just the friend angle that is like it makes me so uncomfortable because from my point of view, if I was Rafe, I would be like immediately like you were thinking about this the whole time that I was with her. Like you, my
yeah,
friend, were looking at my girl and you were waiting for my downfall. Like I would not assume I would 100% assume malice. Like there's no assuming ignorance in this situation for me if I
oh yeah,
were Rafe. You've been thinking about this and you waited until I was presumed dead and then you swept in and you fucked all this shit up. Like the bro code has been burnt. It's been set
which
on fire.
Rafe agrees because Rafe immediately goes to the bar and everyone's celebrating him because he's a war hero and he came back. And Danny's like, "Can we talk?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna fuck your world up." Like, and
He
he just
pours him a
starts.
shot.
He
Yeah,
does.
he pours him a
And
shot, and
Danny
he's like,
doesn't
"Isn't this what
drink
y'all
it because
do?"
he's like, "We need to fucking talk. You're being a big baby." And
Isn't this
Ray's
what you do?
like,
You pour shots for me? You
yeah, he's
drink
like,
for me. This is what
insulting
you
me
do.
now. Where I'm
Yeah.
from, not drinking is an insult. And then he punches them. And then they start a big bar fight. And then they
Huge.
all got to run away because the
They
NPOs
called the
are
cops.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they end up getting in a car together. And, Danny's like, this is not, I didn't mean for this to happen, and he's just like, I can't fucking look at you, bro. Like, I can't.
I was dead and I came back home and
Yeah.
everyone that I love has screwed me over. Yeah, fuck off. I hate Danny. This is all Danny's fault. He preyed on a lonely, sad woman and knocked her up. She was his best friend's girl. If you wanted to take care of her, there are other ways to take care of her without your dick being involved, sir. I don't
Yeah.
like Danny.
I'm on Danny's team. Like, even if I did think she was hot before you died, the moment you die,
I would
again,
haunt
bro.
someone, even if I was
Like,
actually really dead. Like I would haunt you for the rest of my life. Like you would lose everything. I would take your car keys, dog. There would be weird smells coming out of the vents. Like I
you
would turn
never
all
see battery again in your life.
never. They would go inexplicably missing out of devices. Your coat hangers gone. I don't know where'd they go. Not here. You go up in the attic and there's just a nice little pile of all your fucking coat hangers.
So you're the
All
reason I can ever find a left shoe in this house to save my life.
you fucked over somebody. There's a ghost.
Apparently I did.
He's in there. Just
Apparently.
mild inconvenience is the best way to haunt someone.
Right? So, okay. So then we see a scene where like a dentist gets a phone call and people are listening in on it, and he just kind of like, oh, it's pretty fucking sunny. Yeah, I can see the boats. Who is it? And they're like, I don't think he knows who he's talking to, and they're just kind of talking about the weather. And then they hang up. Oh, there was a scene somewhere in there where they show one of those scientist scenes, pretty much, where he's like, oh, we're all about to die, and the big government's like, give me the proof, and he's like, it's a tummy feeling, and he's like, I need more than that. And then it jumps to Spy Guy on the phone. You have more like Japanese scenes of them being like, it's going down, pretty much. You see their men like putting on their things, kissing their photos, getting ready to get in there. Oh yeah, then I messed it up. Okay, then the war room scene, and I put like the lives that could have been saved if that guy wasn't thinking about his wallet. So now, and that's on December 5th of 1941. Ooh. I said, what? Rate it. Oh, I don't know what the fuck happened.
Oh wait,
this is the fight. Okay, I've mixed up scenes. Okay,
Yeah.
the bar scene didn't happen that quick. Like he talks to her and he runs off.
Yeah,
And
she
then we get
keeps
all
trying
that
to
scene.
talk to him. She
Yeah.
keeps trying, leave me alone. Leave me.
Yeah.
I don't want to see you. Leave me alone, please.
Then we get the war room scene, all that kind of informational stuff. Then the bar scene happens. Big fight breaks out. He didn't take the drink. So fight, fight, fight. Now it's the morning of the 7th. This is the day, if you know your history. And some planes are flying in, and the radar catches them. And he's like, sir, there's something on the radar. And they're like, oh, it's probably nothing. Because remember, everyone thinks Hawaii is fucking untouchable. So there's kind of like, it's probably our guys, whatever. Don't even react to it. And then you get to see like dudes on the bunk, we're mopping, we're living our life, doing chores, everyone's just kind of chilling, kids playing at a park. And in, they're flying in, first bomb drops, it goes swimming, and you have the guys painting the side of the ship, and they look down and they see the bomb hit, and then just devastation. And it's just little explosion here, screaming there. Danny and them, the dudes are sleeping in the car because they just fell asleep in the park, and there's a guy filming, and he starts filming everything because it goes off, and he jumps in the car, and they're like, drive, 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 because planes are shooting at everything, and bombs are dropping, and they also have the girls waking up and seeing the shit going down, so then they're running to the hospital, and then it has like, as they're running, bombs are dropping behind them, you see Betty go down, and you're like, oh yeah, before the day before the bar fight and stuff, Red proposed to Betty, so you're like, old stuttering Red and the pretty girl Betty are gonna get married, and then she's talking about getting married when she turns 19. She ran away, lied about her age to get into the military, so she's literally a child. She's 17. Yeah.
When does what's her face reveal the news to Rafe?
That's after Pearl Harbor happens.
Is it? Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, then this is just the big montage. You're gonna see in this scene Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character, like his ship getting hit, him finding his captain's dying, and he's like, "You trained us well, Cap. You trained us well." And that part does kind of get me. I'm like, "You did it, Cap." And so the captain dies. He runs off to tell the other guy, "Hey, you're in charge now." And then the guy's like, "Start loading a gun," and he goes and does it. And remember, he's just a cook, but he jumps on the big ass turret and he just starts going, and he gets the plane down, and you're like, "Fuck yeah." And then and more jumping around, more ships going down, men in the water screaming, just chaos at the hospital, burnt men everywhere, their hospital explodes, they're like throwing dudes off beds. She's having to mark their foreheads with lipstick because they're out of markers, and it's time to start marking like who's going to get the morphine and who's just going to be left to die, pretty much. And she has, and I was,
well, it's like
you have to make that decision.
Yeah, it's who is critical.
Yeah.
Who, and then the people who are F are the ones that get like morphine because you're just gonna die, and then the people who are actually dead, because you don't want to give morphine unless it's like dire, because there's no way they have enough morphine for fucking everybody.
No, yeah, they don't, and they're doing it like if you're fatal F, you're not even coming into the hospital. You're gonna go sit under a tree and go die over there
and get some morphine. And
yeah, which is such a devastating job. Like, kudos to the people who can do that and are like prepared to do that, but Jesus Christ, man, that
because there's even one guy who's like talking to her, and he's like, "I'm okay, I'm gonna be okay, right? I'm not gonna die." And she tells him,
like,
"Yeah,
I
you're
don't
not
die.
gonna."
I don't want to die, and she's like, "You're not gonna die. It's we got
and then
you."
writes
and
an F on his forehead,
put him in
and
the
then,
trees.
Yeah.
She said, "Go sit him under the tree. I think he knows he's dying now. When you're not putting him in the hospital, you're putting him under a tree."
Right.
So,
and then the dude walks up with what's her face.
Oh yeah, he's like, "We got one. I think she's dead. She's not moving." And she's like, "Oh yeah, she's dead." She checks with the stethoscope for heart, and then she moves her hair out of her face, and she sees Betty. And I always cry at this part because the girls are like, "Oh shit, it's Betty!" And Jennifer Gardner, yeah, character. Dang it, character is like, just check her again, it's not real. And she's like, "Get back to work." And she's like, "I don't know what to do." And
that's
she
tough.
really killed that scene, man. She really kills it. Like, you feel that shit. So Danny and them are like, we got to get, because they've attacked the big bases. So they're like, we got to go get to the smaller little workshops. We got a couple planes 10 miles up the road. Let's get there. And at this time, you see where the Japanese have got the message of first round's gone great. We've only lost, they haven't talked about losses yet. He's like, all right, second round, go to the smaller bases and get the rest of their planes. And so now it's like, oh shit, are they gonna get there first, or are the Japanese gonna get there first? And then they get there, and then they hide a little bit, like they see planes flying by, and then the one guy comes out and he looks over his binoculars and he's like, fucking go. And so they start running to their planes and shootings happening, and one guy gets shot in the garage, and Danny and Rafe are going up, and they get up there, and then you get a nice little plane chase scene. And they shoot down a couple, and then they do the chicken thing again and cause them to run into each other. Nice little plane scenes. And then they land and it's over. And that's when you see the Japanese going, part 2, great. We've only lost 29 planes out of the 305 we sent over. So stage 3, and the other guy's like, nah, they're fucked enough. Let's get out of here. Let's go. He's like, element of surprise is over, so let's hit the road. And the one guy's like, oh. Yeah, but they go. So then they land, and then it's just everyone fucking reflecting pretty much of what the fuck just happened. Oh, and it shows, so they end up at the hospital first to see Evelyn, and they're like, how can we help? And she's like, give blood. And then they're giving blood, and a guy runs in, and he's like, we need people out in the yard. Men are trapped in the ships. And so they're then out in the yard trying to open up these ships. And this is another fucking heart-wrenching scene of the dudes in the Arizona. They're trying to like open up the bottom, and water's rising too quickly, and they're just holding their hands pretty much, and then they die. And it's just like, fucking gets me every time. I'm bawling through that entire section. Just the devastation. And then it jumps over to the one of the most famous speeches in American history.
Well, first, don't they get a notice from
the
big dogs?
Admiral Kimmel is going through the water looking at all the fucking carnage, and he gets a letter saying attack on Pearl Harbor imminent. And he's like, man, if only we ain't gotten this an hour sooner. And
they're an hour late. Yeah.
And then it goes to President Roosevelt saying one of the most famous speeches in American history. And there are, in that speech says there's 3,000 lives lost. And he pretty much, then it goes to a war table. He's like, we're gonna fuck the Japanese up, right? Because we don't fucking play this game. And they're like, how? And he's like, I didn't fucking ask how. You figure that shit out, because we're going.
Yeah, I don't fucking know. You're the people to figure it out.
Don't tell me no. No's not an option. I'm telling you, go fucking figure out how we're gonna go shoot the Japanese right fucking now. And he stands up too fast and he almost falls over, and everyone's like, oh, Mr. President. Because remember, he has polio. So he has braces. He always hid the fact he had polio, and he was in a wheelchair, and he had braces to help him stand and stuff. So anyways, and he's like, I got it. He stands back up. He's like, don't tell me fucking something's impossible. And then he sits down and gets rolled away by his manservant, by the way. Gross.
Jesus.
So then they're like, wait, I might have an idea. And the guy's like, we can take our carriers as close as we can, and then you just fly off some airplanes, and then we'll attack Tokyo. And Roosevelt's like, yeah, fucking cool, bet, do that one. And so then they start that, and then you see
they start training, right?
Yeah,
to take
Danny
off of a
and
ship.
Rafe get called up to their old boss, the one that they were kiss assing, and he's like, I got a secret mission for you if you're interested. And he's like, do you know what top secret means? And Rafe is like, yeah, that's the kind of missions you get medals for, but they send them to your family because you're in a box. And he's like, yeah, but there's a lot of glory in it. And they're like, fair enough, let's go. So they both agree to go join the top secret team. And oh, it was after, okay, so that was that scene. Rewind a little bit. After the carnage, you do see, no, this is right. They agree to go first.
Yeah.
And then you see him, he's packing. And Evelyn comes in and she's like, where are you going? And he's like, top secret, bitch. Like,
Yeah.
and so she starts helping him pack. And she's like, she asked where Danny was, which I will say, probably not the best words to come out of your fucking mouth.
First
Like,
of all, why are you here? Why are you bothering
right?
me?
And he's
Second
like,
of all,
oh, is
why are
that
you
all
asking
you
me about
fucking
that?
wanted? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that all you fucking wanted? Fine. He's over there with those guys, bitch. And she's like, I don't care where Danny's at. I don't want us to leave like this. And he's like, I don't know what the fuck you want me to do about that. And he's like, I loved you like fucking crazy. I prayed to God that if he let me see your face one more time, then I would never ask anything again. And then he does say, so fine, I'll hold up my deal. I'm blessed to have seen your face one more time, but I'm not gonna fucking bother you again. You clearly chose Danny. Because at some point in this, she chose Danny over him. And she tells him pretty much, I would fucking choose you. I'll never stop thinking of you. But I got a bun in the oven. And it's his bun. So I gotta be with him now. And
The
then Rafe is like,
consequences of my
damn.
actions.
Right.
Oh no, how could this have possibly happened to me?
Right. So
What a
and
weird
just like,
situation.
which I was like, I know back then was very different. Don't get me wrong, but it's like nobody would have questioned it. You could have given Rafe the option of being like, yeah, look, man, I am pregnant. It is with Danny, but I'd rather marry you. So if you're in, I'm in.
Yeah,
And
but then you have to hold up the guilt of either never telling Danny that this is actually his child and the possibility of it coming out looking like him and not looking like Rafe,
well,
or
unfortunately,
then you have to go and you have to tell Danny, hey, I am totally knocked up by you, but I'm gonna skedaddle back over to this guy, and you got all the social expectations, and like a dude hearing that would, in this time period, well, in any time period, most likely go fucking nuts and be like, you ain't taking my kid. What the fuck? That would have been a whole fucking mess.
it's
A
true.
whole mess.
That's true. Well, fine. But I still would have given Rafe the option. But anyways, Rafe is very understanding. He then does go, well, fuck. Yeah, I get it. You can't choose me now. So shit. And
Right.
then it shows he's at the beach. They've like left now. And well, she stopped first, they're leaving, and she sees Danny and she's looking at him, and he's like, I just know you don't love me as much as you love him. And she's like, don't be crazy. I love you
No.
more. I totally love you more. And
Does she
he's
tell
like,
him, by the way? Does
no,
she tell Danny? I didn't think so. The fuck?
no. And she told Rafe to not tell either because she wants Danny to be able to focus on the mission and not worry about what's happening at home. And Rafe agrees. So, but then Rafe and so they've left now. They're at their training beach, and Rafe is burning letters. And Danny comes over, and Rafe is just like, "You shouldn't go. Like, you shouldn't be here. You should go home. Seriously." And he's like, "You're always trying to protect me. Of course, I'm
No.
staying." Like, and he's like, "Okay." So he holds up his bar. He doesn't tell Danny why he should go home, but he's like, so they end up, you get the training montage. They have to make these planes a lot lighter. And he's talking about that this is the first time planes are going to go off of aircraft carriers pretty much. And they're going to get as close to Japan as they can. They're going to fly off and they're going to bomb Tokyo. And so you get the montage of them being like, planes are too heavy. They're not making it. They're not making it. Oh, we finally made it. Clap, clap, clap. Now we're on the ship and everyone's kind of preparing. They're painting the ship. Red paints his bomb with Betty on the side, and they stick like he has these medals, and the guy's like, "What are those?" And he's like, "Oh, these are the peace medals Japan gave to us because while all this was happening, while Japan was planning to attack us, they were also having peace talks with us, so that we didn't suspect anything. So he's like, these are the medals from those peace talks. Let's give them back to him. And so they stick those to the bombs too. And then it's time to go because the ship's caught them, and they take down that ship, but they don't know if that ship called it in. So then they're like, well, fuck. Do we go now early, or do we just say fuck it and turn back? And he's like, no guts, no glory. We're going early. So get on in there. The boys are out. They make it off the ship. No casualties. There's like 9 planes, 12 planes, something like that. They fly over. They hit some factories over Tokyo. It's going. Oh yeah, they've also been told that they're after they hit Japan, they're to pretty much just crash land, and they don't have enough gas to get anywhere.
In mainland China,
Yeah, to get to China and be like, I'm an American. So they do that, but they end up going radio silent, and it's kind of like we're on our own. Like, so they end up crashing in
And
China, but
some planes were coming after them too, right?
oh
Like
yeah,
they were getting
once
shot.
they start dropping their
Yeah.
bombs, the Japanese start shooting at them. So then their planes do get fucked up. I think one went down, and a lot got shot up. They end up crashing in China, but it's Japanese occupied China. So then when they crash, they are being shot at. Danny comes flying in with his plane because Rafe's crashed first. And he shoots some Japanese, and then he crashes really bad. And then he gets like metal stuck in his neck, and Rafe is like, "Oh shit, Danny!" And then the Japanese kind of capture them, and then in the middle, Rafe starts fighting. Which I will say, if you're ever getting captured, just fucking start fighting, bro.
Yeah, don't lay down.
The shit you're about to go through, if you just think I'll get
No.
away later,
No.
go ahead and start fighting. Either you'll make it out or
No.
you'll die, but it will be better than the torture you would be going through if you end up at that camp or wherever basement they're trying to lock you in.
Yeah, especially now that we know like a lot of the war crimes that the Japanese did
Holy
during
shit.
that time. Yeah, no, you're not taking me
Holy
alive,
shit.
dog. I'm taking down as many of you as I possibly can, and it's
Oh, yeah.
whatever's gonna
Fuck
happen
it.
is gonna happen.
So they end up taking him down, but in this, Danny gets shot up like crazy. And while Rafe is holding him, Rafe is like, "You gotta live, Danny. You gotta live. You gotta have a baby." And Danny's like, "No, Rafe, you gonna have a baby." And then he dies. And you're just like, Danny, no. And then,
Look at
oh
God.
yeah, while this whole
Look at
mission is
God.
happening, Evelyn's at home, and while Pearl Harbor was happening, I just almost said Harbor View, which is like a neighborhood. Anyways, while Pearl Harbor was happening, she saved a lieutenant. So she finds him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, thanks for everything you did." She goes, "Oh, you about to thank me? You need to get me in that radio tower. I want to hear what's happening with the Doolittle mission." And he's like, "You shouldn't even fucking know those words." And he's like, "Let me get some fucking flyboy, has some loose lips." She's like, "2 flyboys, actually. So go ahead and get me up there." And he's like, "I'll see what I can do. No fucking promises." But he does get her up there as a secretary. And so she's listening to like their radio chatter, and she's hearing that shit's gone fucking down, and now she's just scared shitless. And then they show the boys coming home, and you're kind of like,
I don't remember how they got out of that situation. Well, I know they threw like a bunch of grenades and stuff, but
the
like how what
Chinese show up.
Oh
So
yeah.
everyone
Okay.
starts shooting at the Japanese, and then the Chinese show up, and then they
Yeah,
take
yeah,
down that little armament of Japanese soldiers. The Chinese take them away, and then they're back on American soil, presumably after some months, and then they're pulling out the pine box that's Danny.
Yeah, Rafe comes out first,
Yeah,
and she
she's
looks at
glowing
him and
because
she's
Rafe is
happy.
there. And then she
And
sees the pine box, and she's like, Danny's dead. And then you get her voiceover telling you the history of it, of like the cook ended up with being the first Black man to receive the medal, the highest Navy medal. And Pearl Harbor is still remembered today. It got us into the war, blah blah blah, which it did. And the Japanese emperor, I don't know if he was the emperor, But he
I
even
don't
said
know.
he was like, "We did it, sir," and he was like, "I fear we just poked a fucking or just awoken a sleeping beast." And I'm sure the real Chinese guy, I mean Japanese guy, never said that, but they probably felt that way after. Like,
Yeah, like, oh
we
shit.
fucked up.
This
We
is
fucked up,
not the
guys.
right. Yeah, this was
Yeah.
not the right move at
Then
all.
you do see it shows after the war and Evelyn and Rafe raising, and they named the baby Danny. And he's
Yeah,
like,
and
"You
he
want to
looks
go
like
flying,
fucking
Danny?"
Danny. He
Yeah,
looks like Danny. Yeah,
yeah.
you wouldn't have been able to pass that baby off as Rafe. Get the fuck out of here.
I don't think Rafe would have wanted to, but
No.
so it shows at the end he's still flying with Danny, with his little baby Danny, just Danny, and that's it. I think it was a beautiful movie, man. Like, I love it
Hard
so much.
disagree. Hard disagree.
This
Oh
is like
my
10 out of
god.
10 for me. Like, yes, the montages get a little much, but man, it invokes some emotion, man. Like, and I love the love story. I love the love story so much.
Yeah, I could see if you, I don't know, just the way that, in particular, Michael Bay's movies do this to me. I don't dislike them because it's all like shooting and explosion and fighting and stuff. I actually really enjoy action movies. I really like fighting and I really like the big explosions and everything. But if you are unable to make me care about your actual characters, if you're unable to make me feel some kind of connection to them, the only one I felt connected to was Rafe because I'm also fucking dyslexic, and I was obviously totally indignant over what the fuck happened with all of that shit. He's the only one I cared about. I didn't care about anybody else in the movie. Therefore, the movie is such a slog for me because I'm like, why? Why am I supposed to care about this outside of the fact that it's a historical story? Why am I supposed to care about these people in specific? Because I don't. Because you're not invoking any kind of, like, the way he makes his movies and the way he writes them is so heavily focused on just the action sequences that there's no room for anything else. So like you have no characterization, you have no character development of any kind. Yeah, the characters are distinct and unique, but not enough to make up for all of the plot holes that you have with all of them. You've not given me any history on anyone except for Danny and Rafe, and only that's just a little bit. Like,
Yeah,
who are these people? I don't know. Where are they from? Like, where do they come from? Why are they joining the army? Like, or the navy? What the fuck ever? What? Like, they
to
feel
that.
like pants. They feel like pants. They're not like they're not distinct characters. So I just don't care. That's
I
why
can
when you're like,
totally
oh,
see that.
the scene is so heart wrenching, and I'm like, they're not a real person. Like they're like an NPC in a video game. I'm like,
No, I can see
oh, he
that
died.
because, like,
Oh,
for me, I'm probably a very hyper emotional, empathetic person. I can honestly empathize
I
with a
am
bunch of
too.
different things. Like, the things I cry over are so minute. So it doesn't need to be deep for me. So I totally see what you're saying, that all these characters are very one dimensional. It
Yeah.
you're absolutely, there's no growth in this at all. There's no actual character arc in any way.
No.
Every character, it's just Betty was young, Red had a stutter.
Yeah, they have
Um,
like one character trait. Everybody is one
yeah, it's all
character
very
trait.
simple. Evelyn's a beauty. That's
That's
it. The
it.
other Jennifer's a smarty pants. Like,
There's
Rafe's a
nothing.
daredevil. Danny's shy. Like, absolutely, these characters are super fucking shallow. Every single one of them. Um, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
100%. But I will give Michael Bay the props that he does make beautiful shot work, though. Like, his
Yeah.
montage scenes, which I do feel like he leans on heavily, that sometimes get to be a bit much. But he does say so much in his non-speaking part. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
those parts almost had more to say than the actual lined parts did, like, in actually pushing the narrative forward, um
Yeah.
building up to that day and all that stuff. And I think he
Yeah.
does a great job cinematography wise.
Yeah. It's
Beautiful
like
movie. you know?
His passion is literally just the act of filmmaking itself.
Mm,
His passion is very obviously not like the storytelling aspect from like a character point of view. He's very plot driven. He's very plot focused, which is
yeah,
why I say his characters are usually like pants. Like it's like rereading Twilight. You just slip yourself into the character and that's who the character is. Everyone's one dimensional. Everyone's like a Mary Sue. Like and that just I hate it. I
yeah,
hate it so much. Like, yeah, they're pretty, and yeah, the flames bumping around, and like, yeah, that's cool, but like, no.
yeah. No, I agree. If you if you like movies that make you think, this is probably the furthest thing from what you. This is nice and simple.
Yeah,
You
no
know,
thanks.
if
It's
you
just
need
3
a
fucking hours.
simple, I think nothing. I just take in pretty colors and pretty people and
Yeah.
pretty moments. This
Yep.
is it, man. This
Yeah.
this will deliver every fucking time. And sometimes I just need those mindless moments,
Yeah, I get that.
evoke a little feeling, send me to bed. Like,
Yeah, I get that. I think there are some movies that are like that for me. This one just does not hit
yeah,
any of those marks, and it's 3 fucking
it is
hours. This
really long.
movie
And I am old enough to remember when this movie first came out on DVD. Okay, not even just VHS, DVD. It was still 2 discs. Like
Yeah,
it stop in the middle. You had to put in the second disc because they couldn't fit the whole movie on a disc. And
yeah.
my Titanic was on 2 VHS discs because it was also a long ass movie.
Yeah. And, like, this was made in, like, 2001, I think, like,
Yep,
B
this
came
one's
upstairs.
01. Yep.
Yeah, B came upstairs while I was watching it, and I was like, "Did you know this movie's fucking 3 hours long?" And he was like, "Yeah, duh, that's not weird." And I'm like, "It's not weird now,
Yeah,
but
but
back in
it was weird back
2001,
then.
this was, like,
Yeah.
extraordinarily long." Like, this was so fucking long for that time period of movies, and he said something, he was like, "Well, this movie is, like, 2 hours," and I'm like, "Yeah, and that still would've been long in 2001, but this is, like,
Long.
excessively long. Like you could have trimmed the fat on this. You
You you really
definitely
could have. And fun fact about this movie. Uh-oh, I changed the way the screens are sitting. Ah. Okay, there we go. Fun fact about this movie though is that Michael Bay almost quit multiple times because he was going so far over budget that the companies kept being like, dude, trim it. And he's like, nah, fuck you. This is my art baby. And he got what he wanted though, so he never had to trim it.
How much did Pearl Harbor cost? Hold on, I'm looking it up.
Oh, I want to say it was in the B. It was a lot.
140 million in hold on. Okay. Inflation calculator. 140 million in 2000. All right. How much was this? 100. I got to make sure I get enough zeros. Hold on. That's 140,000. All right, 3 more. In 2001 compared to 2023. $239 million in 2023.
That's a shit ton.
That movie did not need that much. You could have given a
No,
little bit more to characters, to
this
the
movie
to the
actually,
writing.
while critically acclaimed, not so much fan approved. I think most people are in your boat. This movie gets shit on quite a bit.
It's a slog.
Yeah.
It did make 450 million in box office though.
Well, there you
So,
go. Oh yeah. It critics loved it.
yeah.
Had an Oscar and was nominated for one. So now let's do the history. And once again, this is one of those subjects where one will probably run across multiple movies on the subject just because it's such a huge subject. So I didn't want to bring too much information to the table because there's a lot. There's a lot here that you can pull from. So first, I feel like let's get past, are any of the characters in this movie true? No, except for one, Dory Miller. Everyone else, I mean, technically the admiral and stuff, like they existed, but they're like nothing like their characters. Like it's not. I think every person in this movie just doesn't matter. So when you put all them over because they don't actually exist, then we're just left with the background scenery of what was happening, which was the attack on Pearl Harbor, which is very true. Absolutely, definitely happened. Can still go see the Arizona under the water today. So what the movie kind of explains is why Japan was pissed at us. But you gotta understand that that pissiness was over a decade. So while in the 30s, 20s and 30s, really 19th century Japan, that's when they really opened up to their borders. And they started growing exponentially in technology and all types of shit. And they entered their pretty much colonial stage. They just decided to spread and conquer. And they were whooping China's ass. They were up in Korea's ass. They were everywhere. And this was making America uncomfortable. Kind of like now with Russia and Ukraine. We're kind of like, hey, not cool, bro. So no one really knew how to deal with this. So Teddy decided that he was going to put embargoes on them. And it started with like iron and then finally got in like the 30s, mid 30s. And he was hoping that the more embargoes he put on, the more likely the Japanese would just come to the table for peace talks and like really chill out. But Japan instead just got pissed because they had hundreds of thousands of soldiers out there fucking committing heinous war crimes. But they didn't keep a lot at home because they felt no one could attack their actual land space. So they were just kind of like, we got shit to do. You're killing our fucking economy. Well, lucky for them, around this time, good old Hitler is fucking up Europe. And he's just like, who wants to join my team, bro? And Japan's kind of like, well, they got embargoes on us, so fuck these guys. So they decide, okay, we're gonna fuck over America, and that's gonna distract America enough and their fleet that we can then attack these European bases pretty much around China, around Asia, while kind of helping Hitler, but kind of in their own way, just being like, we just need these minerals and shit because America's fucking our shit up. So we're gonna take these, and it just happens to help Hitler pretty much. So that's what they do. So their plan was to attack Pearl Harbor and make it as secret as possible, which they fully pulled off. Like I said, they did, just like in the movie, go to peace talks with us, but end up at the same time their admirals were planning this fucking attack. Now in the movie where they are sending out a bunch of messages, I couldn't find anything about that happening. So I don't think that happened at all. And then
Well, I mean, it does make sense though from like
it does make sense. That's why I was like, that probably did happen. But apparently America didn't we saw Japan as so little of a threat. We weren't looking at Japan's shit at this time. Later, obviously, they're like on our board and our radar because of what they did. But honestly, at this point, it was just kind of like we weren't listening out for Japan. We did not see them as a threat in any way.
Gotcha.
So that whole scene where the guy's like, I think Japan's gonna hit, never happened. They never got the telegram an hour late. Nobody saw this coming. Now, I will say, I got a treat for you guys, okay? Because when I was looking up, trying to find the full history on like, did Teddy ever know? Did late news come in any way? Or were we looking? I found a bunch of articles talking about how no, he never knew, we never knew, we never knew. But, and I'm almost wondering if it was because of this movie, but rumors And conspiracy theorists have always conspirized that, oh, he knew and he just wanted to fucking start the war. So he purposely let this happen so that he would be able to, without guilt, say, we're fucking going to war. Okay.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah. So I'm going to lean on the side of, as of right now, historians are saying, no, we knew fuck all nothing. Nothing came through. But I did find in 2021, fucking, I don't know why I moved this over. Fox News put out an article, okay? And I was gonna read it because I give everyone a chance. I at least take little tidbits from everywhere. You know, it's one of my lower, it's like Wikipedia for me, but sometimes I like to take tidbits and see like why would they think that? Okay, so I found this article and I was like, let me read this. Let's see, like maybe they have something good to say. I don't know. And then it says, okay, so it comes in with the whole, it's been said, we've been pushed into war. Okay, so what were the warning signs? This is their first warning sign, okay? One of the first warning signs for Pearl Harbor, 1941, was in 1902 when Franklin Delano Roosevelt was studying at Harvard. A Japanese student told him that Japan had a 100-year plan to take over the Asians in the Pacific. That's sign number one. He knew in college, guys. Okay? He knew in college.
First of all,
Pearl Harbor was going to happen. Like, that,
yeah,
I was like, we're starting so strong, guys. We're starting so strong.
First of all, him knowing back in college, that's absolutely batshit insane. But second of all, Japan having a 100-year plan, I can get behind that.
Maybe. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I can get behind the plan
1900s,
existing.
Japan was all about colonialism. They were all about getting
imperialism. Yeah. Yeah,
but I don't think in any realm of common sense could we ever say Japan going, I have plans to branch out, means, remember guys, in 20 some odd years, we got to bomb Hawaii because the Americans will be there. Because you gotta remember, we were not in Hawaii in 1902, guys. Hawaii was its own country then. We came later, like in the 20s or 30s, something like that. We didn't even push ourselves into Hawaii yet. So you're telling me in 1902, Frankie D and this other Japanese kid just knew that not only was Japan going to bomb America, Hawaii would be included in that, guys. He knew. He fucking knew.
These are my favorite kind of conspiracy theories because they are just so stupid.
Oh my God. Okay. Because sometimes when I love listening to conspiracy theories, so don't get me wrong. These are fun. And sometimes I can go, okay.
Well, yeah, when you think about the shit that actually came out, like when you think about the shit that was actually true, MK Ultra at the very top level of the iceberg, one of the first things, and a bit of the doubt is like, all right, but
these things have a point where you're kind of like, okay, oh, now you've lost me. This one it goes right into, and you didn't even get me, guys. Like,
this is the same. This is on the same level of conspiracy theory for me as the idea that mountains used to be really big trees, which is one of my favorite conspiracy theories ever, but they're on the same realm of ridiculous. Like,
yeah.
Get out of here.
Okay.
What else did the article say?
Sign number 2, guys. Sign number 2. We are now fast forwarding. Japan, 1910. A man named Billy Mitchell, a Milwaukee native who was serving in the army and stationed in the Philippines at this time during World War I, wrote that increasing friction between Japan and the US will take place in the future. There can be little doubt, and that this will lead to a war sooner or later seems quite certain. Boom,
That's
guys.
the same thing as going back like 10 years, like from now, going back to like 2013 and being like, you know, Russia, something's going to happen with Russia. No shit. No shit.
One.
Something's going to happen eventually.
One, that, but two, we all have to remember now, this is their proof of how Teddy knew this was going to happen. So you're telling me the president of the United States knew good old Billy Mitchell in the trenches of World War I and got that fucking letter? Some rando just talking political shit that made it to the president's desk
by way of the Philippines. This is exactly.
Are we serious right now?
This is exactly the kind of journalist integrity that I expect from Fox News. This is marvelous. They are.
Oh, okay, so good old Billy Mitchell goes on a little further. Okay, he was determined. After returning stateside as a decorated war hero, by the way, Mitchell tried desperately to convince U.S. commanders that one day planes would be able to sink ships. Guys, I'm telling you, listen to me.
Was this man Rasputin? Was he reincarnated?
That's what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. This is what you're bringing to the table. Oh no, and they're even saying that in 1910, Billy is saying, we will be creating unmanned arms, drones. 1910? Billy was talking about drones? Stop it. Of course, he would be like kicked out of any room he was standing in. And why would the president ever know about this crazy man? Like,
hold on. Do you want to know more about Billy Mitchell?
Oh my God, you found more?
So, the Navy's first helium-filled rigid airship, named the Shenandoah, crashed in a storm in September 1925. It killed 14 of the crew. They lost a bunch of seaplanes, and Mitchell apparently issued a statement accusing all the senior leaders in the Army and the Navy of incompetence and, quote, almost treasonable administration of the national defense. October of 1925, charged with 8 specifications, was proffered against Mitchell on the direct order of President Calvin Coolidge, accusing him of violation of the 96th Article of War, an omnibus article that Mitchell's chief counsel, a congressman, declared to be unconstitutional as a violation of freedom of speech. But he was court-martialed that year.
This is our great proof.
This is the guy. Like, a bunch of people testified for him and stuff, and like public opinion supported Mitchell, but at the same time, they didn't give a shit if whatever he said was true or not. They were like, you can't go on record saying that everyone's a piece of shit. Like,
oh yeah,
you're not allowed to do that.
Listen, so their next one. So we got good old Billy Marshall. So President Theodore Roosevelt in 1940 should have looked back in history at Billy and listened to his predictions. He should have also known about this British book that was written in 1924 called The Great Pacific War. A fictitious, they even write it here, a fictitious war story based on Japanese planes bombing American cities. He didn't read the signs, people. Like, how do you not hear how fucking crazy you sound right now?
Well,
like,
it's Fox News. It's Fox News. What?
And do you know that they put this article out on December 6th? So the day before.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Remember Pearl Harbor? We're going to write this fucking nonsense?
From a marketing standpoint, that's the perfect time to release it.
Yes, but Jesus Christ. So I'm not even going to fit. They got more here, but I'm not going to do that. I will say, like, I think one article I read kind of said it the best, or the one historian that was talking, where he said, the closest you can say that the American government knew is just the idea of like they were poking a bear. They were putting embargoes on this country when hostilities were already happening around the world too. So the most you could say is the American government grossly underestimated the Japanese. And they absolutely did. They probably should have seen the Japanese want to bite back at some point if you're going to keep fucking poking that bear. You know what I mean? While the Japanese at the same time grossly underestimated us because they thought that we would be hit. And one, they thought they'd take out way more of the fleet, but they'd sent half the fleet away. So, but they also thought that the American people would be crushed so harshly that we wouldn't fight pretty much. And they even put out their interview side of it where they said that they were actually surprised at the amount of fire back that was happening even as ships were going down. They didn't expect them to fight that hard. So then the one article I saw was talking about how the Japanese were actually way more technologically advanced than us, which I think they are even today. Which is one of the reasons they were able to devastate us so hard and we weren't able to hit back with such a punch in that moment because our guns were just grossly nowhere near the strength of their planes and their guns, which was quickly rectified. But so yeah, you just had two countries that completely underestimated each other and fucked around and found out. And I think that's probably the closest you can get to saying Teddy. You could say Teddy should have known better. You can't say, oh, he knew and wanted this to fucking happen. You know what I mean? Like,
I feel like if he wanted to join the war, he would have just joined the war.
Yeah.
What's the point of all of this nonsense? Why would you decimate half of your fucking fleet and like
exactly
kill all of those people? It doesn't make sense.
No, not even in a we gotta go to war sense.
He's not President Snow. Like,
yeah. So yeah, and I think the movie from I found a couple stories of people talking about like what they saw, what happened there, and I think the movie did do a good job of capturing that. I did find a man, his story. His name is oh, where is it? It was like Ivan. But he had this cute little story. Oh, his name's Bud. He's 18-year-old Art Bud Montagne. And so he gets stationed in Hawaii before he goes to Hawaii, he goes to Long Beach and he meets a beautiful woman there. Oh wait, I got server. So he joins the Navy, meets a best friend. Him and his best friend are like, oh, we're gonna join the Canadian Air Force so we can fight the war. So in the movie, when Ref joins the British Air Force, that actually wasn't a thing he could have done. Only civilian Americans could join that group. If you were already part of the American Army, you couldn't join. But we did have a program with Canada where our armed men could go up there and join their military and then head on over to Europe. But when they got there to volunteer, they were already told, it's been shut down. The American government doesn't want to send any more of their boys away. So they head back to Hawaii where they're stationed. They end up in Long Island. He meets a girl there. He falls in love with her. He's like, she's the most fucking amazing woman I've ever met in my life. And they keep writing to each other. And when he's in Hawaii, he decides to buy an opal ring. And he decides he's going to send it to her with a letter asking her to wait for him to marry him pretty much. And he was going to send it on the ship, but decided that takes too long. So he put it in the actual mailbox at the post office. And this was on December 5th. So because he decided to put it in that mailbox, it didn't end up at the bottom of the ocean. It actually made it to her. And so she actually got that. But then Pearl Harbor does happen. He's on the ship when it happens. And he even describes seeing the missile like seeing these planes and being like, oh, what the fuck's happening with these planes? Just like they were in the movie, and seeing the missile in the water hit the ship and then like feeling that explosion. And he talks about the chaos and all that stuff. And then, of course, we're in World War II. So then, of course, he gets sent off to war. In other words, never seeing his love again until after the war ended. And by this point, she's gone and been a bad bitch. She became a pilot. Of course, not for the military, but just teaching people how to fly. She got engaged like 2 more times, but she still had his ring. Yeah. So when he got back and she still had his ring, she decided to settle. They were like, it was love at first sight again, and they ended up getting married. They eloped like a week later and had babies, and they lived the rest of their lives together. And I just thought, I was like, oh, a real story,
cute.
right? So I love that. And then so yeah, so altogether we did lose 2,400 lives. Half of those lives were on the Arizona, the ship that sunk. Men did go down and get trapped in that ship and just died that way from drowning. They couldn't get out, and it's really fucking sad just to even think about. And yeah, then when the Japanese in the movie said we sent out 300 planes, we only lost 29, that was accurate number. That's exactly what happened. They did play like the Japanese, like they gave the one Japanese character like the wise old man, like this is something we got to do, but it's not going to be good, you know. That was not a thing. Now the Japanese did argue amongst each other of whether they should poke this bear or not, but only for like practical reasons. None of them were like, oh, maybe we shouldn't. And then the one guy, the Admiral Izuku Yamamoto, he definitely wanted it to happen. He was very happy when it happened. And as soon as they hit us, they immediately attacked into the rest of Asia and fucked shit up over there. And it was a bad couple months. And then in April, so the end of the movie is the Doolittle thing, and that's in April. And that did happen. They tore out these planes, they modified them like crazy to get them over there. They shot up pretty much the coast of it, hit some oil factories and stuff, flew over. One plane ended up, so no fire back happened from Japan. That's all made up. But they were running out of gas. So one guy veered off, but he ended up in Russia. One guy did end up crashing. Another guy had to bail from his plane and he ran into a cliff. The rest did land in China, but were captured by the Japanese, and that's not a good thing. They ended up shooting half of them, but sent a couple of the men back. So it was like a death sentence for them. It was, and they kept them as POWs for a long time. But the Doolittle did happen, and Doolittle himself, like he felt like a failure as soon as it happened. He was like, it was too little of a hit. We got fucking captured. This is gonna do nothing for our morale. America already feels like shit. But the Doolittle, when the news of that came through, actually shot America's morale through the roof. We were like, fucking get it, let's go. Which then sent us charging into war, with all pistons going, the whole country fucking behind it. And they saw just a lot of articles, which I will grant it was a lot of like military.orgs and stuff like that. So they tended to toot America's horn pretty hard anyways, but they were very much like, pretty much the morale of Americans is what won the war, guys. I think that's just known. And then, so
Sure,
Dory
Jan.
Miller, like I said, was the only character in this whole movie that was a very real person. He was a black cook on the ship of the West Virginia. He was serving breakfast that morning, finishing it up, about to do some laundry, when a torpedo hit their ship. He immediately leapt into action, getting to the injured, getting them out into safety so they didn't fall into the water. And then a lieutenant grabbed him and was like, fill up those guns. And he went, put the bullets in, and with no training, jumped right into the turret because he didn't see anybody else around. And he started shooting. Now, in the movie, he actually hits a plane, but history's kind of like, we don't know what the fuck he hit. There's no way to fucking know that. It was chaos happening. But hey, he definitely protected the sound. So he earned, he loaded the turret, jumped on, started shooting, and he got awarded the Navy Cross and a Purple Heart. But he would unfortunately still die in service during World War II. But he did survive Pearl Harbor. So yeah, that's pretty much, I think, enough history to stuff into this. So altogether, based on a true story-wise,
Not bad.
I think they did okay. They did okay.
Yeah, not bad.
I think they kept it pretty loosey. They got a little loosey-goosey, and I think they do. Like I said, I kind of wonder if this movie's not what popped off that crazy-ass conspiracy theory. Because, I mean, I think it's been around a long time, but I do wonder if they're kind of like, see, the movie gets it, you know? Because they really did sneak that one in there.
Well, conspiracy
like,
theorists will
genuine.
take any little bit
Oh,
of
yeah.
affirmation and be like, oh yeah, absolutely.
Michael Bay knows. Michael Bay knows what's up.
Yeah, Michael Bay knows better than any historian.
Right. So
Sheeple.
I did also find, just real quick, this movie, because it was like critically acclaimed, win an Oscar, but it was also in the same year voted like worst movie, because they were just like, of all the canon holes and oh, so I was like, oh, let me find these lists, like what are the holes? And oh my god, you have to be such a fucking just plain bro to give two shits. Most of the stuff on the list of like things that were just so off was like, they had them smoking Marlboros. Well, Marlboros weren't invented till 72. And I was like, okay, fair enough. That's a pretty big one. Then it was like, oh, and they had them flying the B-2s. It's 1941, not 1943. And I was like, okay, so we were off by a whole 3. Then they had another one that was like, oh, the radios they were using, they would at least be using a different model, like the BX2, not the BX3. And I was just like, Jesus Christ, stop it.
History bros are the worst.
Oh my god. It like they made it seem like he was just pulling shit. And I was kind of like, after reading that list, I was like, you maybe had like 2 decent ones up here, and then that's it. Like the rest,
it's not
like,
real, bro. It's not. It's a movie. It's not real. Close your eyes. Just close your eyes.
It's a movie. They're not gonna get everything fucking perfect. Okay, I feel like Michael did his best, and I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But apparently, if you're a history bro, you're not. That's what it said in the article. You're not even gonna be able to look at this movie because of all the incorrectness and just blatant wrongness. And I was expecting to see some juicy shit, and nothing. There was nothing decent. I was just like, oh, they painted that green. Well, that technically would be blue because on April 8th, like it was just like, Jesus, stop it. This is a terrible list. You sound like a person who's never had fun in your life. Like,
right.
Like, so on that note, go see fucking Pearl Harbor. It's great.
Or don't waste your time. Read the cliff notes. Watch a breakdown on YouTube. Watch a video essay. Like, don't.
You know what?
You have to buy or rent this movie.
Channel and just join the War Bros. Like,
don't join the War Bros. That's a slippery slope into World War II apologist
it is
territory.
All right. And on that note, good night, everybody.